you're looking at videos of me like in those first 2 years and just looking ill, like looking like we work long hours, sallow eyes, shit haircuts. I mean, it was still an independent before Sky bought us, so
Yeah.
shit pay as well. Like
Yeah,
we
of course.
started on 22 grand, which does not get you very far in London whatsoever.
And I want to move on now to Football Daily, because it's where most people will know you from. But the origin stories to you joining Football Daily are quite interesting. I've heard you speak about staying on a mate's floor when you first arrived in London. I wondered if you could give us some insight into that first experience of living in London, because obviously growing up in Leicester, the contrast between Leicester and London must have been vast for you.
Yeah, I mean, London was straight after New York, so London's the only English city that compares, right? So it wasn't a huge transition, I guess, from what I'd just been through, and Leicester's small but busy and industrious. But I had no money. I saw this job on production base. I didn't want to do it for long. The plan was not to be here for 5 years. I'd be talking to you today, Alex. It was get 3 to 6 months worth of pay, see where you are after that, and take things as they are. So no grand long-term plan that sort of germinated into Football Daily. Yeah, sleeping on my friend's floor, not fun. Very kind of him and his girlfriend to put me up for 5 months. I did tell them it was 1 to 2 months, but got pretty comfortable there. It was intense, I guess, to start off with, particularly I think they're moving out into my own flat on spare room, and there being no real compelling reason to come home, which leads, because my girlfriend was still living in Leicester, it fuels an unhealthy working pattern, which I suppose helped us make good on Football Daily, right? It was fueled by an unhealthy kind of obsession to reach 1 million subscribers or to reach 1.5. It's not quite as intense as it used to be now, thank God. But yeah, I think that definitely helped. The fact that I was going home to see my girlfriend at the weekend, or every other weekend, but from 7 till 10, a.m. till 10 p.m. every day. It was like, this is my opportunity to make this work. Yeah. So I have like a small time in which to do it, but long hours. So that definitely helped. I'm not sure I'd recommend that to anyone.
No, yeah. I remember seeing you guys working your absolute bollocks off, like grafting into the evening. Maybe we'd come to visit you guys in your office. It'd be like 8 p.m. and all you boys are still in, just editing and grafting away. One of the hardest working groups of people I know.
Oh, thanks, mate. Appreciate that. But you're looking at videos of me like in those first 2 years and just looking ill, like looking like we work long hours, sallow eyes, shit haircuts. I mean, it was still an independent before Sky bought us, so shit pay as well. Like we started on 22 grand, which does not get you very far in London whatsoever, particularly when you've just spent all of your fucking money in New York. So there was that. But I guess, it paved the way for positive things. If it hadn't, and you asked me, was it worth it? Obviously, that's difficult to gauge. I'm just fortunate enough that it did go our way. So yeah, the start was, it was rough, but I think most small independent companies have a story like that, right?
Absolutely. And of course, London, like New York, is one of the greatest cities in the world.
Big time.
I think, everyone would agree that. What would you say is your favorite thing about living in London?
It's a good question. It's a very good question, because there's a lot of things. I don't know whether this is indicative of like the cynic that I've become, but the things you don't like about London spring to mind quicker, which is like the rent, the commuting, but like just the variety. Like you don't get the variety anywhere else. And contrary to, Twitter and the news, it does just coexist most of the time absolutely perfectly. I remember telling my mum that I was going to live in Brixton, and she was absolutely mortified because the version of Brixton she was imagining me living in was a volatile one from the 80s, where riots happened. I don't know if they happened regularly, but when they did, they were big, weren't they? And I didn't have any preconceptions, and just went down there, and I've not still live in the area 5 years later and absolutely love it. And Leicester had a huge Indian population, and it's got a big, it's a fairly big Polish population, Somalian population, but never like a Caribbean one. So that was fairly new to me and interesting to learn, and just to be immersed in, the market culture of Brixton and the culinary delights down here, mate. Like you can leave your front door and I live near the O2 Academy originally, so it was pretty noisy. But I left my front
imagine.
door and I was like 50 yards from a nightclub, 100 yards from a Caribbean restaurant, 70 yards from a Nando's. Everything. I think that's a good sort of distillation of London.
Yeah.
You go from going to the Horse and Trumpet in Leicester, you know, one of your mates picks you up, it's the nearest pub, it's 20 minutes away, there's nothing much else to do. You go from that to having everything at your fingertips, or everything being half an hour away, and it does take you a while to be in a position to take advantage of that, unless you've got rich parents, etc. So you kind of have to, you know, you're like looking through the glass, so to speak, to start off with, like, oh, look at those cocktails, they look nice. At £12 a cocktail, I will not be buying, you know, one of them until I have been promoted 3 times. So yeah, you kind of have to grit your teeth and bear it. But I imagine it's an even harder city to like live in or come up in. There is advantages from, you know, I think from, you know, coming from Leicester to London. Yeah, it's I love the intensity and the variety, mate. Unrivaled.